Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. In the third video on the how to create the SDTM mapping specification, we will be talking about the CM domain, that is the concomitant medication domain. For this domain, again, we are using the same study which we have used for the DM and AE domain. And in this study, it is an open label phase 1B study with where the subjects are given anti-cancer therapies, which are the patients with advanced or metastatic solid tumors. This is a dose escalation study. So let's see how we are going to create the CM domain. Please note that the anti-cancer therapy is given as a part of CM here, along with our study medications. The study medication is not your anti-cancer therapy. So for CM, first of all, the first step is to check the annotation, the CRF annotation. So if your CRF annotation is done by the visit as well, then you can checking by the visit schedule or the study schedule, you can identify the visits which for which the CM is captured, and you can directly go to those visits and hence go to the CM annotated form. Otherwise, if the CRF form is not being annotated based on the visit, then you will have to search that for which page was annotated for CM domain. In this study, there are two forms which are annotated for CM. The first form which I'm showing you is the anti-cancer therapy form, and the other one which we will have is for the prior and concurrent medication form. Please note that for these two forms, we have each form has a separate form also where we are asking for a header question that, like for the concurrent medication form here, we are asking whether any medication was taken. If the response is yes, only then the form for the, in this case, prior or concurrent medication form will be enabled and the investigator can add the data. Similarly, we will also have for the anti-cancer therapy CM form here. This is the full form in which the data will be filled, but this data will be filled only when the response to this question is entered as yes. The question is any prior or post-study anti-cancer therapy was given or not. So these two forms data will also be present in your raw data set. Let's see how it will be present first. So right now, in my raw data set for the anti-cancer therapy, another question which we will find people asking is that how we will identify that this CRF form data is captured in which raw data set. So in this form, you can clearly see that we have a name given that is the AC. That means here this form information is being captured in your AC raw data set. So going to the AC dataset right now, I have opened the AC raw dataset, and in this form, you can see that along with the other information captured, you have the information captured based on the CRF form name or the page name, and their other silent hidden features which are used for the CRF designing part, and it is populated at the back end when the record is being created. So you can see the other fields also, that is visit ID, page ID, sequence ID. All this information is something which will not be needed for my SDTM programming, but it is used by the DM team when they are querying any data or entering any data. So right now, to identify the pages, I will show you the pages here. If you see, there are two types of page information captured in AC. That is the anti-cancer therapy, and the another one is anti-cancer therapy, yes or no. The yes or no form is the form where the response to this question, whether the anti-cancer therapy was given, yes or no, is captured. So for this, you can see there is two variable, ACYN and ACYN underscore DEC, which is the decoded value of this. And if you go to the CRF form also, you can see that this information will be captured in this particular variable, which is ACYN. So this is the variable, and based on the value of this Y or N, the form will be open for their respective subjects. You can see the rest of the information which will be captured in the complete form is missed or is null for this form because it will not be captured in this form. So now let's go to the other form, which is the main form for anti-cancer therapy. So this is the form where we are capturing the anti-cancer therapy information for the anti-therapy given as a CM. So in this form, you can see what we are capturing. We are capturing the therapy type, which will become our CM subcategory. And for the category part, you can see that we have annotated in our CRF form so that the category of the information captured in this form will be anti-cancer therapy. So when we are going to map or mention in the mapping specification, we can directly mention that for the records coming from anti-cancer therapy, the CM cat will be anti-cancer therapy. But for the other information, like the second information which we have here is the therapy type, which is captured as the subcategory. The other information like the therapy type, other specify or targeted therapy, all this information which will be captured as your subqual in CM. And there are other fields also, which is like the number of cycles or the best overall response and other things which are as per the annotation being captured as a subqual information. So for subqual information, how to map these will be discussed in the mapping specification for creating the subqual domains. Right now, the next field which we have for CM in this form is this CMTRT. And you can see the therapy information is again a free text here, and it is being captured in the variable aCTRT for the anti-cancer therapy form. The next is the start date and end date, and they are captured as ACSTDAT and ACENDAT variable. Let's see the data. So right now, if you will see that we do have the subject information, the subject number information, and we have already filtered for the page number, which is anti-cancer therapy. So what we are showing is the form or the data captured in the anti-cancer therapy, it's data. So right now, these fields, these fields which I'm showing you are something which is added at the back end and will not be used in an SDTM mapping specification. So now starting from the aCTRT, this is the field as we have seen in the form here, which is capturing the therapy information. Then we have the other informations which are captured, and the AC stat dat, AC ST dat and ACEN dat are the two information which is captured, uh, will be used in the start date and end date for my CM domain. All the other fields which are captured here are something which will be mapped to the subquals. The other thing which we will have in this case is how the MEDRA coding, which is being done based on the aCTRT field. So we will come to that in few minutes, that how this MEDRA coding is done and how we will be using it. But let's move to the CM raw data set as well. That is the other form. So the other form, which is for the prior and concomitant medication form, this is the form. So in this form, you can see that all the core SDTM variables are being captured because this is the main CM form here. The anti-cancer therapy was the form where we were capturing only the therapy and the start date and date information. We were not capturing any other information. So in this form, you can see we have captured the concurrent medication as a free text. We have the indication as well, the start date, whether the CM which is being given to the subject is ongoing, yes or no. So we have this variable being mapped to our CM ENRF. Then we have the end date. Please note that if we have the ongoing populated as yes, then the end date will be missing. And vice versa, if end date is populated, we will have the ongoing as no. We have the dose units. There are other information which is extra, can be mapped to the subqual domains. Then we have the frequency, route information being captured here. So these are the only fields which we have populated for CM domain in the CRF form. Again, the CM category is being hard coded on the CRF form. So we will be using this value as it is, and it will not be coming from any raw dataset variable. Now let's have a look at the CM raw dataset as well. So in this case also, we have a yes, no question form, like similar to this one. Like we have this form, it is being kept, the response is captured in CMYN variable. So when we see the CM dataset, we in the page name column, you have two types of values. One is prior and or concomitant medication. The other one is prior or concomitant medication, yes or no. So if you will select yes or no, again, similar to the anti-cancer therapy, yes and no, you will see that in this form also that all the other information is being kept as missing, but only the CMYN and its decoded variable is being populated with the response whether the concomitant medication form was captured for the subject or not. So you can see this information, everything is there. So again, this form is something which we do not need. So we will be concentrating on the form which we will be mapping in our SDTM domain. That is our prior and concurrent medication form. So in this form, coming to the variables which we have seen, which is the CMTRT indication, the start date, the ongoing status, its decoded value, the end date, then the CM dose text value which is being captured in the variable CMD DSTXT. Let's have a look again. Here the dose is captured in CMDSTXT. So if you will notice here, this variable is a character variable here because we have the values which are added in this is a combination of numeric as well as character values such as this. So while populating the CM dose or the CMTXT, we will be using this variable, but we will have to use some segregation on which case the CM dose will be populated and in which case the CM dose text will be populated. Why? Because either of these two variables will be populated. Both variables cannot be populated on the same record. Then we have the dose unit. Again, the dose unit here is in the coded form. So we will be using the decoded form here, which is their DOS U underscore DEC, and this variable is mapped to subqual. Similar is the case with the frequency as well as root also, that we will be using the decoded values, although the captured value is from the frequency and the CM root, but since we have the decoded values populated, we can use these two. Coming to the coding variables, again, we have some sort of codings, the MEDRA coding, which is being populated here. You might notice that these MEDRA coding values, which is populated in CM as well as AC dataset, is something which was not captured in your CRF form. So someone who is very new in working on CM domain might question that from where this information come. Based on the CM TRT value or the in this case the raw, if I'm talking about the raw dataset variable name, so in this CM dataset it will be CMTRT, but in AC it will be the ACTRT. But however, if we talk from the SDTM core variable, that is the CMTRT value. So based on the treatment which the subject has received, when we say treatment, that I'm talking about the CM medication here, the based on the medication which the subject has been taking, the who drug coding will be done by the DM team once they have captured the raw data set, and using the raw data set, they will do the MEDRA coding in the data set before providing the final raw data sets to the SDTM team for further creation of the SDTM data set. So once the data set is being captured in your CRF form, then at the back end, that is the DM team, based on the CMTRT value, will apply the MEDRA, that who drug dictionary values here, and we will have the information of the code, drug name. So these two are the uh, preferred values, you can say, or the decode value, the verbatim term value in this case. And apart from that, the next values which we are getting, that is the the text, in this case, the code 4.text4, which is the code and the decode value, the 4-5 levels of the Medra coding, that is something which we will capture and can be captured as subquals in your CM domain. That is the WHO drug ACT levels values from 1 to 5. So if you are aware of WHO drug, then you can correlate that which ACT values I'm talking about, because these are the values which are mapped in your SDTM subqual domain, but not in your SDTM core variable in CM domain. However, if you are new to these CM coding, then the ACT values are the levels of the WHO drug dictionary. And to get more understanding on this, I will suggest you to watch my video on the WHO drug dictionary coding. So moving ahead with the CM mapping specification, let's see. So as we have discussed earlier, that the study is same, so it will from the CRF form also, or and based on the protocol or SAP, from there also you can get to know the protocol name. So the study ID is populated from that the protocol or the CRF information here, that is 101-18101. And we know that we have the mapping specification is for CM domain, so we have to mention it as CM in your programming notes. Before we go further, let me recall how we are getting all these variables. So to get all this information, the tedious task is to copy paste from our SDTM IG version, which we are using. So in this study, I'm using the 3.2 version. So from there, you can definitely use this section and copy paste in this here in your Excel format. However, the easier way is to get the SDTM IG version in your Excel format from the CDISC site, and you can copy this is the information which you will have directly from the file, and you can directly copy paste from the file there and use it. So how to get that file and from where you can get that file, I have already discussed in my first video on this series, that is for the DM domain. So if you want, you can go to that part of the video and know how we are going to download the Excel file. So from there, we can directly copy paste in our CM domain file. So that is something which I have done now, that instead of copy pasting from the SDTM IG PDF file version, I have used the Excel file version, where I have got the variable order, variable name, label, type, the code list or the formats which will be applied for the variables, their roles, and their core information. The core is whether the variable is required, permissible, or expected. So having discussed that, let's go back to the programming notes. Now, the next variable which we want to discuss is the uSubject_ID. So uSubject_ID logic is going to be same for all the domains which we have used. And so in this study, what we need is, if you see the raw data set, the the SUB num variable is the variable where we have the information of site ID as well as the subject ID already being captured together. So the only thing which we need to add to this value is the study ID to make it as a unique ID. That is, will be the unique subject ID. So what we have done is we are concatenating the study ID with our CM subnum separated by hyphen. If you are considering the data from AC dataset, then it will be the AC subnum, otherwise it will be the CM subnum. But in short, the variable which we have to use is the subnum here. We will come back to CM sequence at the last, because even when you are doing the programming for this dataset, the CM sequence variable or the sequence variable will be the variable which you derive at the last. So we will come back to this at the last. For this study, we are not having the group ID or the SPID ID being used. So I have marked it as grayed out or marked it as in yellow but I've kept in this spec to explain to you that if in case you do have these variables captured in your study, then from where you can see. If you are having this information, you will have this information either annotated in your CRF form, from where you can directly get to know that which variable is having this information from the raw data set, or otherwise the raw data set will also have this information if it is being used in your study. So keep an eye on the information on the raw data set, what exactly is being captured. Then next is the topic variable, which is the CMTRT here. And as we have seen that for CMTRT, for anti-cancer therapy form, we can get this CMTRT from our aCTRT variable. So I have given two line of code here that when we are considering the anti-cancer therapy form, then we will get the CMTRD from AC dataset, which is our raw dataset name. And in that dataset, we will be considering the aCTRT variable. Same is the case when you are considering the prior and concomitant medication therapy form. From there, the CMTRT will be populated from the CMTRT variable form that is coming from the CM domain. So to generate the CM in this scenario where we are getting the CM data from more than one form, and in this study, since we are getting two forms, what we have to do is either we can create or we will create two intermediate data sets. Say one is the ACCM dataset and the other is the prior concomitant medication CM dataset. And before we generate the CM sequence at the end, we club these two together. When we are clubbing, we will be setting these two data set together. We will not merge, make sure of it. So we will set these two final data set or the intermediate data set before creating the CM sequence. So when you are creating the CM data set from multiple forms, make sure that you create the coding for each individual raw data set here in this example. Now the next is the modify. So for modify, again, although this is a permissible variable, but this variable will only be used when the free text value, which is captured and populated as CMTRT, needs modification to identify the correct verbatim term or the standard format value of the medication. So until unless we need to do any modification, we will not need the CM modify variable. In this study, we did not need, so it is being again grayed out. From the CM decode, as we have seen in our data, the preferred name and is the variable where we are capturing our CM decode variable, and not capturing, I will not say capture, but this is the variable information which is being derived based on the CMTRT from the WHO drug dictionary. So in both of the data set, we have this variable, which is the preferred name. We can get the decode value from there. So for anti-cancer therapy, again, we are using the same variable. And for the CM concomitant medication, also, we are using the same variable. So we have mentioned the logic for both accordingly. From category, for CM category, we have two different CM category we defined inside your CM CRF form annotation. So based on the annotation done for these two variables in both the forms, we are populating that for anti-cancer therapy, populate it as anti-cancer therapy, whereas for prior and concomitant therapy form, populate it as prior and or concomitant medication. Please note that this value will be exactly same what we have annotated in your CRF form. So it has to be same as it is from here, as well as from the form which is populated for anti-cancer therapy here. For the S category, since this subcategory was captured only for the anti-cancer therapy, and we know that it is coming from the aCTYP variable for the anti-cancer therapy, we will use that variable for the records coming from the anti-cancer therapy form. But however, for The prior concomitant medication form, we do not have the subcategory captured, so it will be null for the CM prior and concomitant therapy form. So accordingly, we have given a logic here again. Coming to the presp, occur, stat, and the recent variable. First, let me tell you, since these are not used in my study, it is grayed out. But for your study, where and how these variable will be used. So coming back to the CRF form, let's go to the CM concomitant medication form. So right now, the TRT which is being captured is a free text variable. That is that the investigator can write whatever the medication the subject has taken. However, if the CRF form is designed in such a way that there are some medication already mentioned in the CRF form, and the investigator have to select whether out of these mentioned or the pre-specified medication, did the subject take any medication. That is something which we will capture in your CM presp variable. That is, if the medication is pre-specified on the CRF form, then the CM presp will be Y. However, whether that medication the subject has taken or not, that will be asked. And if the subject has taken that medication and had answered the question as yes, then the CM occur will be Y. And if the subject is asked that question, but the subject has answered as no, that the subject has not taken the pre-specified medication, then the CM occur value will be N. However, although the medication is pre-specified, but the investigator, due to some reason, did not get a response on the question, then the CM occur will be missing. And the CM stat will be populated as not done in that scenario. The reason why the response was not received for this particular question will be mentioned as the reason in this variable. Sometimes for scenario is that this due to some uh, interruption, the response, either the investigator forgot to ask the question or the investigator did ask the question, but the subject has not given a response, or some other reasons, whatever is the reason, the response is not received, then reason will be captured here. The stat will be not done, occur will be missing, but the press will still be Y. So in this way, you can populate these four variables. Coming to the indication variable, again, we know that the indication was captured only in my prior and concomitant medication therapy form in this study. So we are keeping it as null for the enter-cancer therapy, whereas we are populating from the variable from where it was annotated. You can see that the indication was annotated for this particular variable. Coming to the class and class code, again, this is the meta coding information. So for this information, we have the drug name and the code variable in our data set. These are the two variables. The code is the coded value, and the drug name is the text value for that particular code. So using these two variables, you can populate the CM class and class code accordingly. And this is going to be populated for both, which is AC and CM raw data set. So we are using accordingly from the both data set. As we have discussed in the annotation, the CM and CM dose text, either of these two variable can be populated for a particular record. Both variable will not be populated for a particular record. So in our study, again, this is populated only for my concomitant medication form, that is the prior and concomitant medication, and it is not captured for my anti-cancer therapy. So for anti-cancer therapy form, it will be null. But for the prior and concomitant medication, we have seen that it was coming from my DX STDTC variable here in this form, and we will be using this variable, and we have seen this was a numeric variable, character variable in our CM dataset. So when we are going to populate the CM dose, please note that CM dose is a numeric format, is the data type for CM dose is numeric. So when we are considering the CM as dstxt variable, we will only populate the dose when this variable is having a numeric value. When we say numeric, what we mean is the value like this is considered as a character value. These other values you can see here are considered as the numeric value. So when this value present in the CM dstxt is of the numeric format, then we will populate it in CM dose, whereas when it is in the character format, we will populate in the dose txt. And the other scenario, it will be kept as missing. The dose unit is coming from dose u, and the frequency is coming from the frequency underscore DSC DEC variable, because that was the decoded value. So I'm using the decoded value here. The dose form, total dose, and the dose regimen, these are not captured in my study, so I'm not populating. However, if you are having in your study, it will be annotated in your CRF form, or if it is not annotated, it will definitely be mentioned in your protocol if they have a only one or a particular type of form being, or the dose regimen being assigned. So you can refer those and get this information. And the origin for these variable while creating the defined XML will be in that scenario, if you're deriving it from protocol or not deriving it, you are getting this information from protocol, the origin will be protocol. Otherwise, it will definitely be annotated, and then the origin will be CRF. So we have the dose form and root also being captured in your CRF form and being populated accordingly. Coming to the start date and end date, we have seen that these two information are also captured for both the form in your sgdat and endat variable respectively. So we have used those variables to populate these two variables. Please note that for all the variables where a particular code list or format is being applied, we have to make sure that when we are mentioning the logic, say for example, in this date variable, whatever date we are getting from the raw data set, that date has to be converted in your ISO format. Similarly, when you are applying any other code list, say in this CM root, we are applying a root code list. So whatever value you are getting from the root underscore DEC, we have to make sure that this is in sync with our CM root code list here. So make sure of it that once you are driving, you are checking from the root code list as well. Coming to the dy and variables, that is the stdy and endy, the logic to populate the dy is going to be same as that was in for our ACE domain as well. That is, if the start date is greater than the reference start date, that is the RF STDTC variable from DM, then we will add 1 to the difference between the start date, CM start date, and the reference start date. Otherwise, we will not add the +1. Same is the case for endy, that if the end date is greater than or equal to the reference start date, we will add 1 to the difference between the CM end date and the reference end date. If not, then we will just derive the difference between these two dates. The duration variable, if will be populated only and only if you have captured this variable. In SDTM, you are not going to derive the duration. If the duration is being needed in your study, it will be derived at the atom level only. So if your study is capturing the duration, we will populate it in the ISO format. However, since in this study, we did not have the duration, so it is being grayed out. Same is the case for the CM SDRF, that it was not captured, so it is being grayed out. For the ENRF, we have seen that there was an ongoing question asked in our CRF form whether the CM is ongoing, yes or no. So if it is marked as yes, then the ENRF will be populated as yes, ENRF will be populated as ongoing, otherwise it will be kept as missing. Please note again, if the CM is ENRF is populated as ongoing, the end date has to be missing. And if it end date is populated, the CM ENRF cannot be having a value of ongoing. If this is not being implemented properly, there will be a pinnacle check firing when you are going to run the P21 checks. For this study, we do not have these rest of the 4 variables, the reference time point variables for used in this study, so it is grayed out. However, if it is used in your study, you will again have this information being annotated in your CRF form, where they will mention that which will be the start reference time point, which will be the end reference time point, and they will capture the start relative to reference time point and the end relative to reference time point as being a question, answer to a question asked in your CRF form. So in this way, you can annotate the, in this way, you can use the annotation and the raw data set to create the CM mapping specification and ultimately the data set. The last variable which we are left to discuss is the CM sequence. So once you have created the map programming for all these variables, in this case, we have for AC as well as CM, 2 separate intermediate data set will be generated. And to create the CM sequence, before that, we will set both the AC and the CM intermediate final data sets and the ultimate final CM data set, which we have got after setting these 2 data set. On that data set, we will make sure that this final intermediate data set is being sorted based on the key variables of your CM domain. Now the question arises is from where you will identify what is the key variables. Key variables comes from the structure of your CM domain. If you see the IG, here you can see what is the structure. So in this structure, it is mentioned 1 record per recorded intervention across or constant dosing interval per subject. From text, it is understood that what is the key variable, but to identify it from the variable viewpoint here, from where we can get this information is you have to go in your chapter 3, and in your chapter 3 you have 3 to 1 table. In this table, if you see the dataset CM, you will see the key variable information. So in this, you can see the key variable information is study ID, U subject ID, CMTRT, CM STDTC. So in the normal scenarios, these 4 variables are sufficient to identify the record uniquely. So we will be using this level of sorting in our dataset. So when you are writing the CM sequence mapping logic, you will mention that we have to sort the final data set based on these key variables here, and then we can generate a unique ID for each record. However, I have added the CM end date as well. Why? Because there can be scenarios where using only the first 4 variables, we do not identify the record uniquely. Say, for example, a subject has taken 2 concomitant medication starting from the same date. So in that case, you cannot identify if the drug is also same somehow, then you cannot identify. So in that case, to identify record uniquely, you will have to add further variables in the sorting order. So I have just, for example, used the END date as well. However, if you do not need it, the first 4 variables should be more than enough to generate or to identify the records uniquely and generate a unique ID. So in this way, you can see what is the order with or what are the variables you need. So accordingly, you can use the variables to use generate the CM sequence. So that's all for today. Let me know in comments if you want me to cover any specific topic or you have any questions or doubts. Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching.